Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, October 27th. I'm your host, Tom Moore. The Wisconsin game is tomorrow, the game against Michigan in 29 days. Today's episode presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in the nation by Food Network. You can go to jeffruby.com to get a look at the menu and make a reservation today. Jeff Ruby sponsors all of our shows, where we feature Ross Fulton, the X's and O's guru from BuckeyeHuddle.com. Yesterday, we talked about the Ohio State offensive performance against Penn State, and it was mostly good news. Today, Ross, we are talking about the 2023 Ohio State defense, which means it is pretty much all good news today. Buckeyes held Penn State to just one first down conversion, 0 for 15 in the first 59 minutes of the game. That is pretty darn good against a top 10 opponent. Let's start with just how did they? This started a little rough for Ohio State. Penn State hit a couple big runs off the start of the game, but boy, it didn't. The bad news didn't last very long.
Yeah, I think Jim Knowles made a comment after the game. Someone asked about a couple early runs of Penn State's and what went wrong. He's like, I made bad play calls and I stopped doing it, which is obviously funny, but he did in fact stop doing what he was doing early. So Ohio State came out and played, especially those first two series, a lot of the split safety concepts that we've been talking about the past couple weeks. Early, you saw some quarter, half, you saw some three safety too high, and this first run play is cover 4. And they had some problems fitting the run from them, with the 7 wide spacing. And, these are some of the issues that we discussed previously. And so this one, cover 4, Penn State runs a CT counter, so the center and tackle are pulling. JT Tuimoloau flies upfield, leaving this big hole, and then between Tommy Eichenberg and Latham Ranson, coming down as the cover 4 safety, they have to fill it, and they kind of fill the same gap. It's not clear to me whether that's on JT, he should have been crashing down and flies too far upfield, or it was designed that way, and those guys need to fill correctly. But in any case, they largely stopped after these couple series playing their split safety coverages, except on passing downs. I saw a quarter, half occasionally to get the corner and the fit, but it became much more of throwback to last year, single high, 8-man, everything gapped out. A lot of cover 1, and they had the defensive ends pinched down hard on this kind of action. So Penn State tried to run this center tackle counter a couple more times, and it was never successful because whether it was JT or another defensive end, they'd wrong arm it, dent it hard, spilled the football outside, and there'd be, several guys waiting.
It was funny, a week or two ago, Jim Knowles was talking about how, he was asked about how he's not blitzing as much. It's it's in there. You may see more of that in the coming weeks. Next play we're talking about, yes, in fact, the blitz is back, Ross. It is, and, it has been pretty effective when they've gone to it. This one was a very big play by Jordan Hancock, who had a pretty darn good game against Penn State.
Yeah, he really did. And they blitzed more against Purdue. I think it's just the repertoire keeps expanding, right? So they have more things that they can do without blitzing, and they have more blitz options as well. And so you saw a lot of cover 1 in this game, but Jordan Hancock, it's really impressive because even against, Penn State did try to take a page from Notre Dame's playbook and use some 2-back stuff or 21 personnel. And they tried to catch Ohio State in their nickel package, but both Jordan Hancock and Davidson Igbinosun are really stout against the run. There were times when Hancock would be lined up as a Sam linebacker over the tight end and basically playing the D gap. And so here, they use, they bring him on a run blitz, he takes a C gap, Tommy Eichenberg takes the B gap, and obviously comes through untouched. But again, you're starting to see we talked about in previous weeks, is the run defense a concern, short yardage concern? I'm you see them when they want to be aggressive against it, it's not a concern, right? And it was again, to me, it was always largely a matter of they were playing things somewhat conservatively, and now as they're amping it up, they are really starting to stuff those third and shorts. But I just think it's just across the board, even beyond the scheme, the tackling's really good. Like these are the best tackling Ohio State's had from its corners in years. Like the execution's good. Like, Penn State did try, like they tried the one like reverse throwback flea flicker pass. They tried the one, throw out wide to the wide receiver with a backward lateral, and then he throws deep. Like Ohio State like was on top of those. I think they caught Ohio State one time where Latham Ransom peaked in the backfield and they hit a tight end throwback. Like other than that, like they stuffed pretty much everything else. And like they're just playing with like a high level of execution and like soundness as well.
Yeah, that double pass to the wide receiver, I believe that was the first snap right after that punt hit the coverage guy for Ohio State. Like that is the classic take a shot kind of play. Sudden change situation. The reason that's a classic take a shot situation is because it's a sudden change. You're not expected to be out there, and all of a sudden, boom, you're back out there. And they were right on it. Those guys talk about being on their P's and Q's. They were on their P's and Q's on that one. Another thing that's been a little different. Yes, the tackling's been better. Cover zero no longer makes Ohio State fans wince. The next one is a cover zero play, and it was good news for Ohio State. More pressure. We talked about Jordan Hancock bringing the pressure last time. This time it's Tommy Eichenberg and Josh Proctor. It is coming from kind of all different directions here.
Yeah, and again, so like I think Joel Klatt's like a little overstated, like during the game when he's talking about like Ohio State hasn't done cover zero at all this year. Like they do it, but like he's definitely been more risk averse in general. But like they continue to slowly sort of turn it back up, right? And so like we saw this earlier. We talked about sort of a similar cover zero on the goal line against Purdue last week. And so like again, like one of the benefits, and I think we talked about this, like one of the reasons I think that he's tended to be more conservative is because like Ohio State's safeties can be linebackers if they want to be. Like Josh Proctor is a very good Sam linebacker, as you see here. And so like, you get cover zero. You have Mike Hall, first of all, resetting the line of scrimmage. And like, I'd be remiss if I didn't like say like the defensive line controlled the game. Like Ohio State's defensive tackles like repeatedly, particularly controlled Penn State center and just like reset him into the backfield. And like time and again, they were in whether Drew Aller's face or like stopping the run play. So you have, Mike Hall here resetting it. And then you have an AAC gap pressure from Eichenberg and Proctor. And like, again, it's a great form tackle in the hole as well. Like it's a safety, he's getting down a pretty talented running back. And so again, you just have stout play. Like obviously now the question becomes going forward, like, if you're going to be more aggressive, like you got to tackle well. And they did do that, on Saturday, like when the ball did get out, like Jermaine Matthews had a nice tackle in space. And so, but, so it's always going to be a give and take. But you're certainly seeing them get off the field with, easier on third down, obviously with like 1 of 15 on Saturday. But part of that is because they're amping up, what they're doing.
And they have been amping up what they're doing up front. I mean, this next one is playing some games up front, getting some pressure, and then getting a really nice play out of a true freshman corner, which is not something you can necessarily always rely on. Boy, I mean, I said earlier that Jordan Hancock had a pretty good game. Jermaine Matthews had a pretty good game, and I think you kind of have to grade him on the he's a true freshman curve. But even without that, he had a pretty solid game on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And talking on the latter point first, like going into the game, I sort of assumed that, without Denzel Burke, like obviously that was a big concern. And you kind of assume, well, at a minimum, it's Penn State. They play a lot of 12 personnel. So you're probably only, you have Jordan Hancock, you bumped him outside. You're probably not going to need Jermaine Matthews a ton, but it actually ended up, if you look at the snap count, like 2/3 of the snaps were a nickel with Hancock inside and Jermaine Matthews on the field. And yeah, he played really well. So yes, you get a nice play from him. And like Penn State did try to test him a couple times and, he performed, very well. Like he looks the part. But as Michael Pettit's talked about on Buckeye Huddle, like every week Knowles kind of keeps introducing like new pressure packages. And this seemed to be a new one this week. So like you saw a lot of TED pressures, which is like, a tackle and stunt where the tackle is going first. So the tackle is taking an outside path and basically trying to pick off the offensive tackle and letting the defensive end loop inside. And so, in particular with JT Tuimoloau, they were doing a lot of that to try to get him free and coming in internal pressure. And so on this one, it's a cover one and you have Kenyatta Jackson as the other defensive end dropping in sort of as a robber, that gives them an overload pressure. Again, so you're just seeing these different packages from Jim Knowles, whether they're cover one pressures, or you saw there's a little bit of fire zone with some 3 deep 3 unders in this game, a couple hot pressures again, 3 deep 2 unders. So like he's continuing to expand the package.
And the last one here, we got to talk a little JT Tuimoloau. He did not have statistically the game he had against Penn State, but it just feels like fourth quarter, game on the line. You can tell it's a big snap for Ohio State because it's like, oh, there's JT Tuimoloau making an enormous play for the Ohio State defense. This was an enormous play for the Ohio State defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Ohio State's defense has been statistically good all season, but like as the season progresses, you really start to see guys that are sort of like really taking steps forward, like whether JT, Tyleik Williams, like that are really kind of becoming standouts where teams have to account for them, particularly up front. And I mean, Lashante is going to be like and I probably said that incorrectly, but like he's going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick, right? And he put him on roller skates a few times. Like, did not expect that to happen. He had the earlier play where they tried to block back and split block him with the tight end, and he just like blew right by that guy. And so like he is, he's great against the run. Like he's always going to be really good against the run, but he's really starting to become a more disruptive player against the pass as well. And so he's just going to be someone that opposing offenses are going to have to increasingly scheme around, which obviously provides other opportunities. I think like you're seeing more and more steps coming along from Jackson and from Caden Curry, who has a really good motor. He made one really nice play on a similar tackle and stunt that we talked about earlier, getting in Drew Lauer's face. So I just think you're continuing to the people that have been there, like they didn't play many guys against Notre Dame. Like those guys are still like playing well, if not improving, but like you're also seeing them sort of bring along some additional guys that are making an impact.
Yeah, it does feel like Ohio State's defense has been playing well all season, but keeps getting better, which we are not that far from November, so that is when you really need to be playing at your best. So they will need to be at their best this weekend in Madison, and then as we turn the corner into November, boy, we are just about a month away from the Michigan game. I am not emotionally prepared for the regular season to already be over. This college football season is flying by. If you would like to enjoy and savor that last month of the college football regular season with us, you can do that at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We have our fantastic team of insiders covering the team, covering recruiting, covering X's and O's. We even have the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. That is our premium forum presented by Columbus's top premium steakhouse. Check out Jeff Ruby's Columbus Steakhouse for the best dining experience in Central Ohio, and check out the Huddle at BuckeyeHuddle.com for the best message board experience in Central Ohio and all of the state of Ohio as well. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.